again, this is Sasha bringing you a video tutorial today from BP4U. So now that you have watched all these long videos on Photoshop, let's go ahead and put our knowledge to work. So let's go ahead and we're going to edit a picture. I'm going to go up here to File, Open, and I'm going to select the picture that I want to use. Let's go ahead and edit this one. So I'm just going to double click on that and I'm going to open it up into Photoshop. Again, you can open from the bridge as well, but I'm going to open by using the File menu. Okay, so here we have our picture open, and so we can go ahead and we can start adding some adjustments. So we can add maybe a little bit of contrast. And so you can see the change there is kind of subtle. Let's go ahead and we can duplicate the background layer, and let's change our blending mode to soft light, and that's going to add a lot more contrast. And then we can go ahead and we can lower the opacity to about, let's do around 70%, and so you can see the change there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to correct the color of the photo, and I like to use curves to do this. I'm going to grab this little finger tool. I'm going to add a little bit of red because I see a lot of, to me I see a lot of green color casts here. And I'm just going to pull up on that. And so I'm going to add a little bit of red and I'm going to add a little bit of magenta. And now I don't see those green tones as much anymore, and so I'm satisfied with that. If I wanted to, I could add maybe a little bit of yellow, really just a smidge. It doesn't take a whole lot usually for this tool to do a good job. I'm going to click back on my background layer again. And let's go in here and bump our midtones. And so I'm just going to pull that just a little bit to the right, not a whole lot. You can see that a very subtle change can make a huge difference. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to smush all of this onto my background copy layer. But before I do that, I'm going to take a snapshot just in case I change my mind later. So let me go ahead and I'm going to press Control, Shift, and then I'm going to click on this brightness and contrast layer while holding those keys down. It would be Command Shift on a Mac. And I'm going to press Control E to merge those layers. And because I have a soft light background, I need to duplicate my background again. Now let's try that again. Again, I'm going to press Control. See, I have this, I'm going to explain this real quick. I have this as a soft light, therefore I can't smush all of these onto that background copy. So I made this duplicated background layer here, and it's a normal background layer, so I can go ahead and I can smush all of this onto this background layer. So I'm going to press Control Shift and then Control E. It would be Command Shift and Command E on a Mac. And so now you can see that's all on one layer here, and you can see my before and my after so far. So let's go ahead and we're going to run an action, and I'm looking for one right here. This is the one I want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press play on that. I'm going to press continue. I'm going to bump that on top. So, and all I did to bump that on top was I just clicked and I dragged it on up. I need this to be on top of my brightness or contrast layer. So this is an inverted layer mask. If I press Control I, you can see that this is my inverted layer mask at full opacity. For this action, full opacity is 75%. Of course, I can bump that all the way up to 100. That's definitely an option. I'm going to press Control I again, and I'm going to hide the entire action, and I'm going to paint it on. So to do that, I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to use white because white reveals and black conceals. I'm going to set my brush size, and I'm going to leave my hardness at 0. And I am going to set my opacity and my flow. Let's make this opacity 60% and kind of paint this onto the trees in the background. And then we can decide if we want more of that effect or less. Definitely want to grab some of that ground there too. And this is just going to give me a little bit of a nice saturation to the background of my image, just to make the picture a little bit fun. I don't want this on the people because to me their skin is already saturated enough. Okay, so you can see here, if we click this eyeball on and off, you can see our before and our after of that. And you can see on the layer mask where I have and have not painted that. Let's just go ahead and grab some of these leaves up here. Maybe this moss here. And actually just go ahead and do the whole tree. We'll do everything but the people. Okay, so you can see here's our before and our after. And again, we can go ahead and, if we wanted to, we could smush it with this this brightness contrast layer. It's called brightness and contrast because the brightness and contrast layer was the one that I had originally had on top. And so that's just what it decided to name this layer, but we can call this anything we wanted to if we were going to get picky about our names. So I can go ahead here and I can take another snapshot if I wanted. But I think I'm pretty much happy with the way that this edit looks. And so if I chose to, I could go up here now and I could save my picture. I think for this image, I could save it two ways. I could save it as a PSD and as a JPEG. The reason why I would want to save this two ways is because if I went back later and I decided that I didn't like this layer, maybe my client didn't like that extra saturation, or if I decided that I wanted to turn that down and lower the opacity of that, I would have that option. And the same with this one. If I decided I wanted to lower the opacity or I didn't even like that or whatever, I could go back and I could change that. And I would definitely want to save this as a JPEG so that I could go ahead and have that for file sharing so that I could upload that to my social media platforms, my email account. I could send it to a client. I could have it printed off at a print lab. Definitely have some advantages. The other file that you could save it as is a PNG. Usually I use PNG for anything that has transparency to it. So if I were to erase the background layer and have some holes in my picture that I wanted to be able to see through, like if I posted it to my blog or wherever, then I would want to save that as a PNG. Most often I use that for watermarks. If I were to design myself a watermark and use that, like if I were to grab a new layer and make some text and go ahead and save that without a background layer, I would want to save that as a PNG because then I could upload that to my blog and it would have a transparent background layer. It wouldn't have a big white box around it, or I could go ahead and place that over top of other photos and it wouldn't have that white box around it. It would just be transparent in the background. So I usually use the PNG mode for just for transparency. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm just going to save this as a JPEG and I'm going to do Control E again. And now I just have one solid background layer. And I want to go up here to File and Save As. I want to save this as a copy. I'm not going to overwrite my original file just because, again, now I can go back and I can change the, I can go back and I can just have the original on hand. It's always a good idea to keep that on hand if you like to stay organized, if you think that you might want to go back and re-edit it later. It's just a good idea. And then I can go ahead and I can hit save. I always keep my quality up at 12. If you pull the quality down, your file size is going to get smaller. So I keep that at 12 and I can just go ahead and press OK. I like to have the highest quality. And that's it. So thank you so much for watching this video tutorial. Happy editing!